Medicine until the 1970s had been pretty well divided among the three primary areas of medicine, surgery, and pediatrics. That was the kind of holy trinity of academic medicine. Pathology, anesthesia, and all of the other fields generally revolved around the three core departments.
No one really paid a lot of attention to the brain issues. The development of a specialized neurological intensive care unit was really most important because of the enormous improvements in what we knew about the brain and how the brain functioned and how important it was.
The NCCU needed to be established because of the needs of several different departments at Johns Hopkins, and it required the cooperation between neurosurgery, neurology, anesthesia, critical care medicine, and eventually nursing.
The research that began in the NCCU began mainly with Dan Hanley and came from the anesthesia department with their director of research, Richard Traceman. They began programs that have been extremely successful.
We had to improve the care of patients, and that research was the best way to do it. There were ongoing projects in plasmapheresis of Guillain-Barré patients, and the NCCU quickly became the home for those patients. Working with Professor Jerry Walensky, I was part of developing the first antivirals for human encephalitis, and those patients came to the NCCU. And soon after that, Justin MacArthur was bringing people with infections of the brain because of AIDS. There were both external and internal drivers.
As a clinical nurse specialist, we deal a lot in the translation of evidence, but when you look at the evidence, you readily assess that there are gaps. Knowing that there is a need to find answers to these gaps in our current knowledge really drives me. I really find that there's hope in research. What we have in the NCCU, I believe, is really a unique brand of neuroscience nursing. And under Ski Lauer's guidance, we really elevated the neurologic exam and ensured that we were speaking the same language as our neurosurgical and neurology colleagues. Ski Lauer's role in the NCCU really is integral. She developed the NCCU with Dr. Hanley and colleagues in the early 1980s. She had come from a critical care nursing background, and she believed in the development of nurses. So many of us have benefited from that over the years.
She taught us all how to be the educators of each other. Part of the model that we used with primary nursing also involved shared governance. What that meant was everybody got to participate in so many of the decisions about how we were to practice nursing. We all got to come together and sort of write the rules about how we wanted to be as a team. You weren't a singular person anymore. You were actually part of a larger group, and everybody had to come to agreement about what was best for the greater good for the unit. It's really important to understand that the neurocritically ill patient can be a very challenging patient to take care of. And so the nurses really depended on each other for support. And I do think that that was one of the things that really caused staff to be bound together by that shared experience.
The training program was also a very important part in the NCCU that developed very quickly. This rapidly evolved into requests for fellowships.
Our fellowship program is very selective and is very competitive, and therefore we always try to train the best out there. So what that means is that they're also charged with bringing and developing new ideas. The graduates of our program, they have gone out to the world and they have made great things. We have fellows that have become leaders in many institutions. I think we're very proud of what we've done and all the training that we've undertaken.
The scientific responsibility of this unit is to go back to one of the early hopes for neural protection. That is, to protect the brain and peripheral nervous system from injury, to hasten its recovery after injury, and to know as much as possible about how to intervene once an injury occurs to prevent subsequent injury and reverse that damage that has already occurred. The difference today is that so much more is known about the basic physiology of the brain and the peripheral nervous system that it's a more realistic hope today than it's ever been.
I think it is possible in particular conditions to bring neurocritical care into patients' homes by way of telemedicine. I think that that's where the future is going. There's evidence to suggest that patients may recover better in their homes than in an institutional environment. That is something that will be challenging, but we will be challenged to think about in the future.
We now have fellows who are studying patient well-being a year after their illness was treated in the neurocritical care unit. The brain takes a long time to recover from an insult. Having trials that assess the value or not of interventions and allowing enough time to assess the patient long-term is probably the future of neurocritical care, and I think it's a very bright future because there are so many things we can do to help the brain in its acute injury stages.